Welcome to the Collagen Symposium. My name is Len Monheit. I'm the Executive Director of the Collagen Stewardship Alliance. It's a great opportunity to talk all things collagen over the course of the next 90 minutes. And I'd like to introduce my esteemed colleagues for this session. So we've got Elizabeth Thundau, who is the VP Consulting and Nutrition at Frost & Sullivan. We've got Dave Foreman. He's the pharmacist, natural pharmacist, and natural media health expert. We've got Caio Gonçalves de Souza. He's the head of medical affairs at Aspen and an orthopedic surgeon. We've got Daniel Martinez. He's the head of R&D, human and animal health at Bioiberica. And we've got Ingrid Muller, who's a rheumatologist at Institut Paul and professor at University of Barcelona, as well as the International University of Catalonia. So that's the group that will be presenting and speaking over the course of this session, this symposium. And our first topic that we're going to discuss is actually the collagen market today. And so we've seen this rise in awareness of collagen. Consumers seem to be confused and mystified. So what's really going on, Liz?
Thanks, Len. What a great topic to start our conversation today. So, I mean, you're completely right. The rise in collagen and awareness of collagen has absolutely exploded in the last 5 to 10 years especially. But collagen as an ingredient has been around for many years now, centuries in fact. Here in Europe, way back in the 12th century, it was being used as a joint remedy in traditional medicine. In Asia, there's a long history of consuming collagen-containing bone broth to support beauty from within topics. But it's really in the last maybe 10 to 20 years actually, that the science behind collagen has begun to be understood and developed. We've seen the extraction of different types of collagen, purification techniques of collagen. All of this has enabled various different types of collagen ingredients to be extracted and commercialized for consumers. On the back of that as well, we've seen a huge explosion in the number of scientific papers linking these different types of collagen to various different types of health benefits. So on the one hand, we have awareness, we have science really developing. On the other hand, as you said, coming back to consumers understanding has not, unfortunately, kept pace with these developments. And it's perhaps not surprising. I think consumers are aware of, obviously, the term collagen. They're aware that it's a protein and plays an important role in our bodies. They're probably, in my opinion at least, less aware that there's so many different types of collagen, 28 different types, although largely types 1, 2, and 3, main ones commercialized in the market nowadays. They're also aware of some of the different health benefits around joint health, around beauty, but not necessarily linking which type of collagen to which type of health benefit. So I think there's a long way to go to sort of improve consumer understanding and enable it to really support the development of the market going forwards.
So talking and switching to the market itself, Dave, you're in the market. Yeah. What's really going on there in this space?
Well, I agree with everything that Liz just said. There's so much confusion. And, you were talking about the consumer being confused. I find people just involved in the industry, like in R&D, even sales and marketing, don't understand that depending on how companies chop up or cut up, we'll say, the collagen molecule will impact what effect it actually has in the body. So some, depending on how they cut it up, it's probably a little bit better for skin. And so if the R&D person doesn't understand they're using the wrong collagen for the wrong condition, how can the consumer possibly know? Or the consumer ends up being confused because they hear that collagen's great for skin health. They don't know they're taking the wrong one. They're expecting to look better, at the end of the day, and they're not. So then they start to think that this natural health thing is just a bunch of hoo-ha and doesn't work. So I think it really should start top down. We need to educate the companies that are actually selling collagen and then help them educate the consumer as to which collagen they really need for what. So there needs to be proper labeling. But the market to me is, as a health expert, it's confusing to me, and I'm a pretty smart guy, so it's just like, it's kind of funny, like if I'm having trouble with it, like how can the average person that doesn't have a science background, be able to wrap their head around this too?
Yeah, and as the director of the Collagen Stewardship Alliance, we're also finding, we do consumer research, and they're all over the map. They're getting more familiar. That's certainly happening. Are they getting more discerning? I think they are getting more discerning, but the confusion is rampant. And I mean, and I do want to take us to the sources of some of the confusion as well. I mean, there's so much information. The internet is an enabler, disabler, the influencer sets. We talked a little bit, we should be talking a little bit about that. What are you saying?
Yeah, so I think influencers have played a really important role in all different areas of the collagen market. I think particularly in the beauty market and in the peptide market. And you talk about different ways of cutting up the chains, and this is what we come to. So we have long chain molecules, which native type collagens. We have short chain molecules, peptide type collagens. I very much doubt those influencers really understand the difference between these different things. But I think one thing is, we're talking here about collagen as if it's a kind of a homogeneous topic, or consumers as if they're one group of people. I think, we have to get more nuanced in that. Consumers vary widely. Depending on age, depending on geographic location, these are very different types of consumers as well.
Are we wrong to be talking about it as a singular collagen marketplace? I mean, where does this organize? How does this stratify?
Exactly. I think, that's exactly, I think, not to start this off on the wrong foot, the Collagen Symposium, but it's not right to consider all collagen equal. It's very stratified, and we have to really start to become much more clear about exactly what collagen and exactly which benefit for exactly which confusion.
For me, it's like apples. Okay, let's simplify this thing. Okay. An apple is an apple, right? But no, it's not. Like Granny Smith apple has very low sugar. It's a little more tart. You get a Honeycrisp, it's a little sweeter. So in the collagen's kind of the same way. In this case, we're talking about health benefits, though. Or we're talking, where does it come from? I mean, Liz, you said 28 different sources, right?
Types.
I didn't know that, so thank you. I'm pretty types. There you go. I just learned something. Thank you for that. But no, it's just fascinating because, I don't think people even understand. If you go to China, the donkey collagen's a huge thing there, or chicken sternum, or where is it coming from, and then what are they doing to it to end up getting the health benefits? But to bundle it all together is really a bad thing, because all collagen is not created equal.
I know that with the Alliance, we've done some work on sort of education and differentiation and myth busting, and then the research is that there's an awareness of source generally, but not really specifically, let alone types.
Right.
Let alone what's attributable to science or what the substantiation levels are. So what is the capacity, do we think, of the consumers to actually, where do we think we can take them? What is it? And we're going to get ahead of ourselves. We're going to talk a little bit about the future of the marketplace. Yeah. But what practically are the next steps? What's the next steps that need to happen to better organize this discussion in the collagen various markets?
Yeah. I think it's really important so for me, there's kind of three ways that the collagen market splits. You've got your type of molecule, you've got how it's cut up, and you've got where that molecule is coming from in the first place. These are the kind of three different ways the market can divide, and it can be a mix of all of those things. So just enabling consumers to understand these three different areas of speciality is really important. I mean, wouldn't it be lovely if every type of collagen really explicitly said on it, every product, had a little table on the back that really said, I'm type 1, I'm from chicken, I'm from bovine, I'm from fish, and I will help you with this. That would be amazing. Unfortunately, I don't think we see brand owners, and this is maybe like you said, because they themselves don't understand. We don't see that level of transparency on products. Maybe they're not understanding. So I think it really maybe even starts with the ingredient manufacturers being very clear, making sure they understand, and being then very clear to pass that along the supply chain. In terms of simplifying that message, I guess, Dave, that's your kind of area of expertise as to how we really kind of, make that simple enough for the consumer to digest. Well,
and that is definitely my wheelhouse. And, for me, a lot of what you said is actually what resonates. It's just to simplify the message. We can all sit here and probably talk very scientific about it, but at the end of the day, the consumer, the average person walking the street, doesn't have that type of science background. So really translating, we were chatting yesterday about, educating a consumer, and the consumer doesn't know what interleukin-1 beta is. I didn't know about it until I had to read about it. So, I mean, it's one of those things that, granted, I have a pharmacy background, but at the end of the day, like, you can't retain everything forever. Maybe Len can, actually.
Hardly, no.
Just keeping it light. But no, so it's for me, it's like, it's breaking down the message into like simplistic things that people can understand. Oh, this supports your immune health, or this is actually helping your body protect your connective tissue, or and you can't even say connective tissue because people don't even know what that is. You know, so it really brings it down to like, we need to, when you're talking about B2B, the manufacturer needs to be able to communicate to their customer, what is this really doing, and at all levels of education. Because somebody that's in R&D probably can talk that science level, but somebody maybe in sales and marketing doesn't get that. And in order to get that message to the consumer, it has to start at that level and then filter its way down. You know, for me, like, that's the best way to do it. And luckily now there are some companies that are actually taking the effort to really figure out how to translate their message of how this product works or how this ingredient works into more simplistic terms that their customer can then communicate to the end consumer. I'm also seeing a lot of manufacturers of ingredients start to create consumer pages for their ingredient. So it's already there, and then their customer can actually just direct people to the name of that ingredient.
Kyle, I want to bring you into the conversation.
Yes.
You have a unique perspective, a unique geography, some unique channel. So maybe talk a little bit about what you're seeing in your marketplace.
I think that one of the problems is that when you go to a pharmacy or a drugstore and you have just one shelf for collagen products, all kind of collagen in that shelf, and mostly products for skin or beauty health. And then you have a different shelf for joint health products. So we are now trying to start to move this and put the specific type of collagen that are good for joint health together with other supplements for joint health. But for the consumer, they just go to see collagen. It's just one whole thing. And then joint health, they go to see other supplements. And that's part of the problem.
Yeah.
Because you need to put some of the collagen, not all, together with the joint health products.
But I think there's actually, it's even more complicated than that, because I think there's three distinct markets. You've got your beauty market, you've got your joint market, but then you've also got the protein market.
Oh,
Yeah.
So there's another layer there, and there's different motivators, there's different consumer sets, there's different demographic targets, but you're talking about a major problem there because it's all just jumbled together.
I think for collagen, it's kind of its USP in a way. You know, it does do so much for so many different health conditions. This is one of the reasons that's driven the growth of the collagen market over the years. Its applicability to so many different benefits, and more benefits being investigated all the time. The science coming out to back up. I mean, it is at the end of the day, it is it's a very good supplement. It's a great health ingredient. But that brings with it its complexity because, it does sit in all these different categories. There's not many other ingredients that cross categories in the same way that collagen can. And that does bring, I think, some unique challenges for the industry that it hasn't faced in the past.
And then Ingrid, you're on the clinician side. You're teaching, you have patients. This jumble certainly has got to be problematic for you.
Very, very problematic because, in fact, what is doing the consumer is asking the GP or the specialist or whatever the doctor that is visiting, I'm having some collagen, whatever the collagen is. Is that for something? And you will listen, the specialist or the GP saying, no, this is nothing, this is rubbish. So why? Because this science that, as you were telling us, is not clear even for the industry, is also very, very confused for medical specialists. So whatever they think it's, this is a complement, so, you can take it, probably nothing happened to you, but obviously has not any positive effect in your health. So most of the people stops whatever the collagen is taking. And in fact, I was having the experience just now with a person who was having collagen, but then say, no, I think it is not helpful because probably have not absorption, or maybe it's not the collagen, or maybe so they don't know what is hydrolyzed collagen, they don't know what is a native collagen type 2, they have no idea. And this happens not only in the consumers, but also in medicine.
Yeah. So where do you get your information?
Well, the thing is, if you are interested in a particular area, you can get information from the literature. And we have fantastic literature review, one of them done by Daniel Martinez, that is a fantastic literature review. And you can see that you have a solid information. This is not like a fancy market. This is something that you can get really clinical trials, animal, in vitro, in humans. So you have all the steps very well done. But let's say that in medicine, maybe we are more interested in interleukin or in antibodies, in something like, wow, this is really fantastic. And the products are also very expensive. So collagen is like, well,
Just keeps on getting shunted aside.
Yeah, and you can buy in the market. So it's not serious.
So a real challenge, real opportunity. So let's switch over to you, Daniel. And how does this sort of play, this confusion, what we're talking about, how does that play into what you do?
Yes, well, I think that one of the elements that is adding confusion is that the term collagen is being used to define products which are very different, from hydrolyzed collagen to gelatins, to collagen peptides, even to native type 2 collagen, which have the full structure. So each one of these products has a different structure, different mechanism of action, different scientific evidence, but at the end, all have the collagen term. And so this is one of the points. So there is confusion, and it is important to segregate which is the clinical evidence for each one and what is the potential use for each one. So
in human nature, we put things into buckets. And we're very, very simple creatures fundamentally. And the bucket there is collagen. So we've got some work to do. And now let's go to the last confusing area. And that's this term, vegan collagen. Okay, so obviously it's a challenge. Obviously it's a misnomer. We all in this group certainly know that collagen is an animal protein. But that's adding confusion. What do we do about that? I mean, and how big an issue is it?
I was just thinking when Daniel was talking, he was saying about all these different things with the word collagen on them. What we're also seeing in the marketplace, just to add another layer of confusion, a lot of products which aren't collagen, that have even got collagen on them. They're not a gelatin. They're not even a protein molecule. These could be collagen boosters. So there might be a mix of different nutrients which are supposed to support collagen production in the body. Or it may be that it's a group of amino acids, synthetic amino acids that have been put together to mimic the structure of collagen. So we're seeing this called collagen or vegan collagen or collagen analog, biosimilar collagen, a whole raft of new terms, but still using that word collagen with not even being a collagen. But yeah, fundamentally, as you said, collagen only exists in animals. It's not possible to have a natural extracted vegan collagen. We can synthesize collagen type molecules, but we cannot make a vegan collagen. My only caveat to that would be that just like in the meat analogs market, where we see a lot of plant-based proteins coming in and proteins being from bioengineered proteins, there is a possibility in the future at some stage we will see a bioengineered type of collagen, which will, whether it should or shouldn't be called collagen, I mean, but it would be a collagen analog or
which would be further confusing.
Absolutely,
what would be the level of substantiation and what would be the types involved?
And no one has ever. I mean, I think another key success for collagen is its scientific backing, and the fantastic work of people like Daniel, the researchers. There is a lot of evidence out there. There's no evidence at the moment that any of these sort of synthetic or bioengineered collagens will have the same efficacy as a natural product. And I think we see that in other areas.
The confusion's really coming from how things are marketed.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day,
those marketers.
Really, I know they're all anyway. Just lost all of my consulting gigs for that one. But it really just boils down to how it's marketed, and it's a trickle down effect. And this whole vegan collagen thing is just, it makes me want to scream when I see it. again, it's just marketing. It's people trying to appeal to a hot segment of the population, which is going plant-based diets. A lot of more people are going vegan, and so somebody decided to get creative with their marketing. And Liz gave really good examples of there might be a little bit of validity to what they might be able to enhance, maybe collagen production or whatever it might be. But at the end of the day, or mimic the amino acids and stuff that are found in collagen. But at the end of the day, it's not collagen, and that's the whole marketing thing. And so shame on those people, because they're actually making. At the end of the day, when you're marketing a product like that and you're expecting a health benefit, the person's not going to get it. We're actually having a negative effect on someone's health, and to me, that's what really upsets me.
Well, it's all about transparency. So we've got an Achilles heel, but we've got an opportunity to create and redefine and stratify the market if we do this responsibly.
Exactly.
Okay. We're now going to switch gears, and we're going to actually talk about collagen specifically for joint health. Okay, so that's the next topic that we're going to be discussing. And we're going to talk a little bit about the differentiation, a little bit getting into a little bit deeper about the types of collagen. So native type 2 collagen is a collagen that's specific for joint health. Kyle, talk about what this means for you in your applications and your experience.
Maybe you should start with some kind of history about joint health. And that's a kind of problem because it started with confusion and it's still confused even today. But if you go to guidelines for joint health, we always have a problem because the guidelines, they do not guide us for a treatment or for something that is good for joint health. So some products are not standard, or some products are very different each one from another. And what we can see that there is some supplements at the beginning. We can go to glucosamine, chondroitin, and that's very interesting product to treat, to start to use them for osteoarthritis. And after that, we just started with the hydrolyzed collagen. That's a very interesting product, and the first time that the word collagen appears for joint health, it's very interesting to use that. A lot of doctors, a lot of health professionals, they start being very interested in collagen, and still the confusion was very big at that time. The problem with the hydrolyzed collagen is that it's not quite standard. It depends on the peptides you have, on amino acids, so it's not just one product. And then we have the native type 2 collagen, and that's an easy product for the consumer because it's just one take for day. It's easy to take. It's easy to go to a long-term use of the product, and you have a standard. It's just the same product always, the same time. So there's some difference between hydrolyzed collagen and the native type 2 collagen, and maybe we should talk about that. Maybe even if it's possible, then I can talk a little bit about the difference, the mechanism of action between both.
Yes. So, well, when we talk about these joint health collagens, well, there are, like as you said, two products. We have scientific evidence: native type 2 collagen and hydrolyzed collagen. Just to summarize a little bit the main differences. So, well, as you know, collagen is the most abundant protein in extracellular matrix of connective tissues, and as Lee said, there are 28 types, depending on the supramolecular structure. So then a type 2 collagen is specific for cartilage. In fact, the mature cartilage has 90% of the collagen which is there in the mature cartilage is type 2. So when this native type 2 collagen is given orally, then elicits an immune-mediated mechanism of action called oral tolerance. And as a result of this mechanism, the effects are like a protection of the cartilage and improvement on the mobility. And well, the clinical evidence has showed that these effects are reached with a dose which is as low as 40 milligrams per day, because the mechanism is immune-mediated. So, on the other side, when this native collagen is denatured and hydrolyzed, what we obtain is a mixture of peptides and amino acids. So, as Gail said, so this mixture would depend on the source and on the manufacturing process, and would have different compositions. Well, there is evidence that some of these peptides that are obtained through the hydrolysis of the collagen, these are absorbed, they could cross the intestinal barrier, they could reach the joints, and once in the joints, they exert chondroprotective effects. And there is also scientific evidence demonstrating beneficial effects for joint health at doses which range from 5 to 10 grams per day. So it's higher doses because the mechanism of action is not immune mediated. It's different. It's more like a nutrition type, or well, among others, because the effects depend on the composition of the peptides that reach there. Different peptides could have different effects. So these are more or less the main differences on the types of collagens.
Okay. So is it possible for us to say that native type 2 collagen is an anti-catabolic product and the hydrolyzed collagen is an anabolic product? Of course, it's not grow cartilage, but...
I would say that this fits quite well, because the native type 2 collagen has this immune-mediated mechanism of action. At the end, what is doing is to like reducing the inflammation, but specific at joint level. So it's protecting the cartilage. On the other side, the hydrolyzed collagen is providing amino acids like hydroxyproline and proline, and also peptides, and these are the constituents of the cartilage. So when there is a loss of cartilage, these nutrients could also help to generate new cartilage.
So the immune-mediated response, I mean, you've done research on that, and that's really sort of new understandings as far as its application in a joint health environment. So maybe describe a little bit of the work, maybe describe a little bit of the obstacles that you've encountered.
Oh yes, perfect. So when there is a joint degradation, so this is the point that there are fragments of collagen type 2, which are the constituents of the cartilage, which are released. And these fragments could be, well, in fact, they are recognized as new antigens by the immune system. So then there is an immune response against this type 2 collagen. These produce like an immune reaction that speed up the degradation of the cartilage. So given orally, so a native type 2 collagen contains epitopes which are on the structure of the collagen. This is the reason why it's important to keep the structure of the protein that are recognized by dendritic cells and at the Peyer's patches in the specific lymphoid tissues of the intestine. So as a result of this interaction, there are some cells which are regulatory lymphocytes that are circulating by the body, and they reach the joints, and these cells are responsible for suppressing the immune response against the cartilage. And so this is a very specific mechanism of action through the immune system. Yeah.
Is this changing throughout as we age, and what happens as we age? And I'm very shortly going to come to you, Ingrid, with the applications for rheumatology. But is there an age-related function loss, or function acceleration?
Yeah. So it is important the age perspective. Because, but in two terms. In one term is for the needs of the joint, because as this starting point, which is the degradation of the cartilage, could come from two different situations. One situation is in young people with high levels of activity. They have some joint damage. They could expose a cartilage fragment. It could have inflammation at the joints. And the other point could be people which is with the aging process. The aging process has it appears degradation of the joint, which is a natural process. And so this is the situations in which there is a specific target for this native type 2 collagen. The other thing is that how this mechanism of action is affected by the age. In general terms, what we know is that the reaction between Peyer's patches and these epitopes of the native type 2 collagen will remain. So we'll have this response at the early ages and at the more aging process. Maybe there are less immune cells, but there are enough in order to elicit the immune mechanism.
So what we're talking about, how does that impact what you're seeing in clinic?
This is really important, and this is really important from different perspectives. I will say one is that because our, let's say, consumers are not only asking for having a treatment when they have pain, they are asking for preventing a damage before they have pain. So they are ready to prevent in many different ways, in the nutritional aspect, but also from a medical point of view. And in that way is the collagen, the native collagen type 2, I think it's a way of prevention. It's a pro-health treatment. And for our patients, this is really important, and this is something that they are asking every day. They don't want to wait till they have the injury. They want to, or maybe they want only increase the function or increase flexibility or increase some of the areas of the joint function. And of course, the cartilage is one important component. They need all the joint organ to be working in an appropriate way. But the cartilage, if the cartilage is damaged, the joint organ will be never working well. So,
yeah, what I'm finding interesting here is that we've opened up sort of two demographics and two areas of application at least. One is obviously this aging, but the other is this active prevention. We have coined a term, or we're using the term active aging as a general umbrella, but we're definitely talking a couple different markets. Does that resonate with you, Kyle?
Yes, for sure. It's a very important market, both, but to have a good aging, to have a good part when we grow very, very old, I am talking about 80 or 90 years old, you have to have a lot of exercise before, from 35 to 40 to 50 years old. So both of these publics, one of them that's already with 80 or 75 years old, and the one with 40 years old, both can use the collagen, because the first one with 40 plus, they'll need some exercise, and collagen will be good for them, the native type 2 collagen, for the exercise, to avoid you have some kind of problems in your joint in the future. And of course, if you already have some problems at your joint, it will help you with the pain and the swollen and everything. So both publics are very interesting to use native type 2.
And there's different intersection points, and in some jurisdictions around the world, we've got a practitioner channel. Dave, what's resonating with you in this conversation in that area, or what's going on?
So when I owned my pharmacy, I was probably way ahead of my time with what we're talking about here, because I had this saying with my customers of, you can pay me now or you can pay me later. Pay me now is the preventative part. You pay me now and you're less likely to have something go wrong. So I take a lot of supplements. 90% of what I take are actually for something I don't have. It's for something I don't want to get. And so that is really where, and you said 40, I would even go younger. I could think of my son when he was, a teenager playing competitive soccer. Even at that age, there's always that, chance for injury. And then the pay me later people are the people that just didn't listen to anything I ever said. Good for them, I guess. I don't know. But then what happens is you end up getting behind, you get behind the 8 ball. It's difficult. It actually takes more effort, a lot more work, maybe higher doses of whatever it is, maybe medications, to really get back to what I like to call stabilization. So the cool thing about native type 2 collagen is it really fits into both categories. So, people are probably looking for a quick fix. In this case, with native type 2 collagen, it's a slower fix, but it's actually going to stop or slow down the process of your joints degrading, the connective tissue. And so, it really does fit into both categories. And, as a pharmacist and working with patients, this could be one of those kind of one size fits all, because it's great for those people like me who just don't want to have a joint problem. But it's also great for those people that are active lifestyle and maybe already starting to feel, if you're starting to feel a little bit it's not too late. It's when it's when you have to go to the doctor and have some more serious or radical type approaches done. And granted, this would help with that, but at the same time, like I'd rather have people be more progressive and preventative.
Yeah, but going back to my question about the practitioners, so what's the implications for that conversation? I mean, in pharmacy especially, any practitioner, you're the point of contact with somebody with their health. So it's critical for the practitioners to be open-minded to this. It's actually could be a great entry point for the education of the consumer. We talked about it in the first part of this about, how does the consumer end up learning? Well, they can learn from us as healthcare providers, and that's really, and to be able to explain it to them in terms that they can understand. So the work that you're doing, Daniel, what's been the response to the various stakeholders, and what's next in your sort of creating this fertile science-based environment?
Well, yeah, I think that the new research is going to provide even further evidence to progress towards, like I would say, personalized nutrition or personalized supplementation, that it would be able to develop specific products to cover the needs for different segments of population, as we were talking, for example, with those active young people or active aged people, or even to the elderly. So in this regard, in Bioiberica, we have a program that includes studies in humans that would help to provide further evidence.
Absolutely. So the immune modulated mechanism of action versus the other mechanisms of action just give rise to all sorts of formulation opportunities or combinations. Have you done any combination research, or is that and is that in the cards, and what does that mean for co-formulation?
Well, one of the advantages of this native type 2 collagen is that the mechanism of action is very specific. So it's specific for the cartilage. And well, it's different from the mechanisms of action of other active ingredients. So this makes that it's theoretically compatible with other mechanisms of action of other products. We could expect added benefits when we combine. So this is one point. And the other point is that as is it a low dose, it facilitates the combination with other ingredients. Right. For example, it could be combined when we think about products with a holistic approach, for example, for joints and muscles, that would be theoretically combined with, whey protein, or when we think in products for bones, that could be combined with vitamin K or whatever. So these potential combinations, I think that could also offer solutions for more than one target.
Yeah, or native plus hydrolyzed.
That's also a good point, yes.
Exactly. Dave, thinking about that mechanism of actions and some of the phytochemicals, what are you leaning towards?
There's a huge toy chest that you can play with, to be honest with you, and Daniel just kind of opened that Pandora's box right there. When you know what for me as a formulator, I like to look at what are the mechanisms of action. Why is that important? The mechanism of action is when we look at a condition, whatever health condition it is, there's underlying physiological biochemical things going on. So in this case, when we're talking about the native type 2 collagen and its effect on slowing down or maybe stopping the process of the body attacking itself and degrading the cartilage more. In the meantime, though, I have probably discomfort. I probably have inflammation. So there's several botanicals. There's one actual study that was done with one of my favorite, I don't know if it's kosher or not, but anti-inflammatory botanicals, Boswellia. And it's interesting because there was actually a study done combining those two ingredients together to show a benefit. So what happens is, you start taking something like native type 2 collagen, we know that mechanism. We also know that it can take, maybe up to 90 days to really for somebody to notice the difference. But in the meantime, there's other things I can combine with that so that the person can have perhaps relief and whatever that particular health challenge is. And those things have different mechanisms of action. So the other part of this being fun, my little formulating toy chest, we'll call it, is that I have the opportunity, because there's so many different reasons that people can have an issue with their joint. And so, we were talking about hydrolyzed collagen. I think it's a marriage made in heaven. If you're really confused about collagen, why not take 2 of them? No, I mean, Liz is probably, God, I can't believe you just said that. But no, in all honesty, because, in that case, we're talking about collagen that's been chopped up into pieces so they can be absorbed versus the whole collagen, which is the native type 2 that's not absorbed. But by giving the body those extra tools it needs, that's when the repair can happen. So we can stop the process, we can slow the process of the damage happening. That's awesome. But at the same time, I can combine it with collagen, but this time hydrolyzed, and I'm getting perhaps the correct nutrients so that the body can maybe do some repair work, and rebuild. And to me, that's exciting because, I'm the king of analogies. It's a two for one special if you're able to do that. In this case, you're probably going to end up getting some sort of synergistic effect out of it as well. Because I know that if I have profound inflammation in my joints, and you're probably better at explaining this as the rheumatologist, but I find that if I can perhaps control some of that inflammation in the joint, the body's not going to fight itself as much. And the way those usually work is some sort of immune modulation as well, because the first step of the immune response is actually an inflammatory response. It's supposed to be protective. It's when it gets out of whack, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure, and then I fully agree with you in the combination. And I was wondering that probably this is not a pharmacological point of view, but regarding the consumer, we have the hydrolyzed collagen that in fact what we are providing to the consumer is peptides. So when we are providing native collagen type 2, we are providing collagen. Why we call everything collagen? I think this is part of the confusion. Mm-hmm. To me, it will be much more specific if you tell me, okay, I have this and this and these peptides that they act perfectly over your cartilage, the synovial tissue. They have a structural effect, whereas you have this collagen, that is collagen, the pure collagen, that is acting through this other mechanism, providing an anti-inflammatory effect, but not only anti-inflammatory, but also structural effect. So you are completing a treatment. You are combining different products, structural and more antigenic or more anti-inflammatory effect. But both are okay. But I don't agree that both are collagen. So, and for me, this is part of the confusion that we have because probably I will love to have, I can give you peptide type 2, 3, 4 that is perfect for the cartilage. I will be very happy with that. But I don't know if that is in the market, or I don't know if this is against collagen market.
That actually makes a lot of sense.
I actually think you've just written the Collagen 101.
Yeah, that was great. Because that's really what we're doing.
201 as well. I think what you just described is a perfect way of approaching the market above baseline, because it's above baseline. But I think it's going to resonate with a lot of the stakeholders in the supply chain and probably a lot of people in industry.
Yeah, because you're right. You're not selling collagen at that point. When you've hydrolyzed it, you cut it up into amino acids, dipeptides, tripeptides, whatever it is. And if you cut it up wrong, actually, I was going to say this earlier, if you cut it up wrong and you don't do enough research, you can actually trigger more of an inflammatory response in the body, because the inflammatory response, or this hypersensitivity, is triggered by a foreign protein. Anything bigger than three amino acids together or tripeptide can trigger a negative inflammatory response. So it really does come down to, if you cut it up, it's better to call it what you just said. This is what it is, as opposed to saying it's collagen.
Well, and Kyle, you're in practice as well. So.
Yes. And that's an interesting point of view, because when you have hydrolyzed collagen, the biggest problem is that in the long term, I'm talking about 6 months, 1 year, it's very difficult for the patient to use it for 1 year, 1 whole year, because it's 10 grams and it's not easy to take. And native type 2, it's easier. It's a capsule, it's one time a day, so it's more easy. Of course, you can have both, and that's the confusion because one is native collagen, the other one is peptides. But you also can have both, but not in the same product. If you want both mechanisms, you can have just native type 2 collagen and just the hydrolyzed collagen and take together. And if sometimes in 6 months you say, oh, it's enough to take hydrolyzed collagen, okay, just stop it and continue with it native type 2. So you should have all the possibilities.
Mm-hmm. I think it's a great segue into our next topic and our next segment area here, and that's going to be sort of the product development side, co-formulation, and then a format discussion. Yeah. So the product development opportunities are there. They're being explored, or they're being opened up more by the new research, and probably some synergies and mechanisms of action that need to be developed. So maybe let's talk about that. Daniel, let's start with your perspective. I'm actually going to shift gears here. Daniel, your perspective on what you'd like to see, what you're looking for. You guys partner with a lot of institutions. What on the science side, and then we're going to go to product development side and meet those in the middle. But on the research side, what's next?
Well, in the research side, there is the mechanism of action, as David said, that it's quite important. So once we have defined mechanism of actions, we could explore which ones are more compatible. And then next step is we need the evidence for this theoretical thing. So, well, first of all, I think that it is to see how we could combine, and then to see how these products could provide like extra benefits. For example, as we had said, the native type 2 collagen that has this protective effect, this could somehow make that the progression of your joint pathology that has a better perspective. No, so then combining this with something that provides instant relief, that could make a lot of sense, because yes, you could feel the benefit while you are protecting your joint and you are avoiding future problems. So I think that from a scientific perspective is just to see how we could cover the different needs at the the quality of life at the very short term, with protection long term, which is also very important because it is what it remains as a health, the health of your joint.
Well, I like the protective aspect because we've got active aging. We've got active consumers. We want consumers that want to be able to do more longer. So that protection messaging is going to be important. Dave, let's talk more about your toolbox. So we've got a bunch of different concern areas, a bunch of different demographics, segmented markets. What's now enhanced the toolbox? Let's get a little bit more specific.
Well, from a formulating standpoint, if we're going to I'll stay on the collagen thing before we start talking about combining. From a formulating standpoint, formulating with native type 2 collagen, which requires just 40 milligrams per day, I call native type 2 collagen a unicorn ingredient, and I'm borrowing from one of my best friends who's a very high-level formulator in the United States. I mean, this guy makes gummies. He was working on a functional cookie dough at one point. I mean, this guy is, and he always talks about unicorn ingredients. And a unicorn ingredient is one that pretty much doesn't taste bad, doesn't smell bad, is easy to put into whatever form delivery method you want. We were sort of touching on the whole patient compliance thing when you were just talking there. And that's the other part of this. We need compliance. So to be able to formulate something that's compliant, and you gave a great example. People are going to take hydrolyzed collagen after 6 months. It's a high dose. We're talking 5 to 10 grams. It's not like you're not going to choke down, 20 capsules to get the dose. Like, people just aren't going to do that. So it's a powder. So could be a little bit more annoying. Do I like powders? No, I think they're a real pain to deal with. So for me, I wouldn't be a consumer of hydrolyzed collagen because I'm not going to, there's no way I'm going to get 5 to 10 grams in my body every day. And if you don't take a supplement on a regular basis, it's almost becomes like useless. And so to have just this very low dose of 40 milligrams, you can take it once a day. And in my opinion, you could put it into just about anything. I'm real hot on film strips. I learned about them a few years ago. And excuse my terminology, but I call that sexy. and that's what appeals to the consumer. It's something unique, something effective. And be able to formulate a product, even just by itself, that I can put into just about any type of format that I can incorporate into my lifestyle. So my 26-year-old son is probably not going to want to open a bottle every day and take a capsule. But would he take a food bar that has 40 milligrams of native type 2 collagen in it, take it to work and have it as part of his snack? Heck yeah. I mean, we're already having these functional foods and beverages, and to actually then be able to take something, and honest to goodness, like we're talking 40 milligrams. That's nothing. I mean, maybe the average person doesn't know what that looks like, but we're talking about like less than a teaspoon, or whatever. So it doesn't take up a lot of room. So for me, again, it goes back to that whole unicorn thing. I can play with it in any delivery method I want to fit that target market. So if I'm talking about athletes, right? Then I might want to put it in their recovery beverage or in their pre-workout powder that they use before they go to the gym, or the protein mix, or whatever. There's many different opportunities there. So you're talking about active aging. Again, I'm almost 60. So for me, and I'm a golfer. So for me, like I know I had a knee injury years ago, and I opted not to have surgery. So if I walk, the full golf course, I will know it the next day. And maybe actually I'll know it that night. So to be able to have something that I can throw in my golf bag and keep in there as my reminder to take something on a daily basis, or have it on, have it be part of my, I'm not an orange juice person, but have it be part of my orange juice or whatever, but it's part of my daily function. And I know if I have one glass of orange juice and I've got my 40 milligrams in there, that'd be just like divine. And then it opens up, the whole other thing is just combining it with other ingredients that are like, can be the marriage made in heaven. And I don't want to keep on being a soliloquy here. So I'll take a breath.
Kyle, formats and formulation considerations based on what we're talking about.
A very interesting association. You can have an oral hyaluronic acid together with a native type 2 collagen. Because the native type 2 collagen, it acts on cartilage. And if you have an orally taken hyaluronic acid, it will act on the synovial fluid. So it's two different, not just mechanism of actions, but they act in different tissues, all inside the joint. So
holistic,
it's very holistic.
Approach, yeah.
I think that Daniel has some experience that with Mobili.
Yes. Yes. Well, with Mobili, which is a hyaluronic acid matrix ingredient containing hyaluronic and glucosamino. So then the thing is that this ingredient has demonstrated beneficial effects in terms of synovial fluid on the production of hyaluronic acid. So it is another approach. And I think that it is very interesting to see how these products with different mechanisms targeting like different tissues on the joint could also help to provide this holistic approach to protect the joints in different ways that could add benefits. So I think that this was one of the perspectives, to add different benefits in one single presentation to make the life of the consumer more easy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We'll focus for a little bit on product formats. I know, Liz, you have some insights and some experience in what is developing and from a general format and then collagen-specific formats.
And I think, again, we're talking about consumers as in quite a homogeneous way. And actually what you see with product formats is there's a lot of regional specificities in product formats. So like film strips, these are pretty popular, actually, quite standard in Asia. These dissolvable strips, put them on your tongue and you're done. And it's no pill to swallow, no drink needed. You can really go very easily. The standard format, particularly for Hydrolysed, obviously is powder, like you said, but it's not an easy thing to consume. Although I would say on that sports nutrition side of things, powders obviously are very, very kind of standard. So that in that, again, for that group of consumers, powder format, they're perfectly comfortable, whether you're talking Hydrolysed or the native type 2. Pills still the dominant globally, but I think consumers are always looking for innovation. They're shots, drink shots. These are, I guess, more in the skin health and beauty health. Again, where you're trying to consume a higher dosage. They're a really important format as well. the holy grail, the kind of format that that we're all consuming every day is functional food and beverage. So getting your product into a standard food that we eat every day, and you see that with a really developed ingredient market would be omega-3s, for example. And I know, Len, you can speak definitely more to omega-3s than I can, but what omega-3 has successfully managed to transition into is something that is in standard products. You go to the supermarket, you'll find it in your margarine, in a yogurt. It's really incorporated into everyday food and beverage items. These aren't items you're seeing in the kind of specialist aisle in the supermarket. These are, everyday items. So, that's really the if you want to get really high penetration in any consumer group, having it in an everyday food and beverage item is where we want to be. So
yeah, our research shows that and across all supplement categories, the issue of compliance and getting consumers to become regular users of any ingredient category, even things as ubiquitous as vitamin D, multivitamins, it's only going to be 40% of the consuming population. And 40% of the population, the rest of them are not going to receive the benefits because they're not taking things enough. So the trick for us in this marketplace is to ease compliance, and benefits us all. Benefits consumers, benefits your patients. So making that consumer comply and consume more regularly, make it easy for them. And I think it's definitely away from the pills. I mean, we've got this proliferation, especially in the US, of gummy formats. Shots are very easy and convenient. Things that convenience is absolutely an imperative. And so I think as we consider formats and product development and co-formulation, it's that convenience to drive compliance, to drive health.
Can I just say something else about formulation? Because it's important for you to have a reason to put a new ingredient together. So if you say, I have native type 2 collagen together with hydrolyzed collagen, we have a reason. And if you say we want to have some phytotherapeutic product together, we have a reason. If you want to have some hyaluronic acid together, okay. But sometimes you look at products and they have native type 2 collagen together with calcium, together with magnesium, together. I don't know why. For me, it's very confusing. Imagine for the consumer. So you need to have a reason to add an ingredient to the formula. Or otherwise, it's just crazy. I don't know.
But I mean, I like what you said, Dave, about, so it's a recovery solution.
Right.
That's a reason.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I just like listening to everybody right now. It's kind of fun, because the perspective is fascinating. So for me, kind of going back to earlier, the compliance thing, I know we're kind of beating that up right now, but that's really what we're talking about. Because for supplements to really, whether it's a functional food, dietary supplement, whatever you want to call it, for it to be effective, it needs to be taken on a regular basis. So anything that we can do to improve compliance is critical. As a pharmacist, that was my big thing. And it's interesting because, sometimes as a rheumatologist, I know you're prescribing medications that really have some interesting side effects that I wouldn't want to have. Granted, they're necessary because of the condition itself. But if I can give somebody a supplement like a native type 2 collagen, and after those, after they've been taking it for consistent time of, length of time, there's a good chance that they might be able to reduce the medications they're taking, maybe not eliminate it, but maybe perhaps have a lower dosage, which one will improve their overall health because they'll have fewer side effects. It's also going to improve their compliance even on that medication.
Yep.
And then I could take it even one step further. Since we know that whether it's hydrolyzed collagen, whether it's hyaluronic acid, whether it's native type 2 collagen, you pick whatever it is, it's going to take time for those things to work. But the nice thing is, especially in the botanical world, there's some really awesome botanicals we can combine with native type 2 collagen so that people can feel relief. Instead of feeling it maybe 90 days down the road, they can start feeling relief in 3, 5, 7 days, which is also going to improve their compliance of taking what's really doing the health benefit for them. I can maybe reduce my inflammation. That's going to give me relief, but it's not taking care of what's going on. It's degrading my collagen. So, if I can combine this native type 2 collagen with something that actually gives me relief now, but as long as I continue to take it, I'm going to have that relief. But at the same time, I'm now going to slow down or maybe stop the damage that's being done, which is triggering me to feel bad. And so for me, and that's why I said it's a big toy box. because it's really what you want to accomplish. You know, I talked about sports nutrition earlier. And Liz, you made a great point. Like, yeah, there's definitely, everybody I know that's like hardcore athlete or just a workout warrior, they're making their own smoothies and they're putting 5-10 grams of, I mean, they might be putting 20 grams of protein in their shake or whatever. Yeah. And so, you know, if we could add a functionality to it on top of that, and that's what you were saying, Kyle, you know, it's just like have the added function. But why am don't just add it because people heard about it, because that's pointless.
Well, that's going to propagate just this fad, but also it's going to propagate this magic bullet thing that doesn't go well usually. You also mentioned, so you mentioned unicorn. I call it holy grail. Anything that is easy formulatable but experiential, and you talked about that experientiality, that resonates, and that resonates so much in this health ingredient marketplace. If you can make anything experience, it ties directly to compliance and an uptick, and then the health benefit, of course. So coming back to you, Liz, combinations that make sense. What does this mean for the market? What does this mean for consumers?
I think as well, I mean, when we go back to the messaging, I think it's about that story, like Kyle was saying. If we're going to have these combinations, it's about how we tell that story to consumers, how we make that understandable as to why we're having these different ingredients together. And I think this does potentially help us to explain that story, explain the different types of collagen and why, you know, because we're talking then about how is it acting, how it's acting, and then why is it going with this ingredient. So I think it could help with that storytelling and that, helping the consumer understand more what to take and why to take it. But fundamentally, that's what we're talking about here. So
just to close out this theme, Daniel, I want to come back to you for a couple of different things. Some of the challenges with formulating with collagen type products, but also this discussion we've just had about being on purpose. How has that changed, or how has that augmented your current thinking about your research programs?
Yeah. Well, the collagen products have different challenges, technological challenge in terms of formulation. For instance, the hydrolyzed collagen, as we said, they have a dose thing because it's 5 to 10 grams per day. So this for traditional formats like pills and capsules, that could be a limitation, but also for functional foods of small format. But it's not only the dose, there are also the technological and organoleptical properties, because the hydrolyzed collagen has some flavor that could have an effect, could be perceived. And the technological properties of the hydrolyzed collagen are that, well, it is known as an emulsifier or as a texturizing. And this could be desired for certain foods, but not for others.
Yep.
And on the other side, with native type 2 collagen, well, there is not these limitations. They are not there because the dose is low and it is not modifying the flavor or the properties of the product. However, there are other challenges because native type 2 collagen, as it is a full protein with the supramolecular structure, is insoluble, and this could be also a limitation. And also, as we have to preserve the full protein, we have to take care on the, for example, thermal treatments. So, and these challenges, we know that in order to overcome this challenge, it's required to develop methods to introduce the ingredient in certain matrices. For example, as you said, for new lines of research, we have ended a project in which we have developed prototypes in order to be able to include the native type 2 collagen, for example, in gummies or in ready-to-drink beverages, which could be pasteurized or UHT. But it requires the development of protocols to introduce the product. So this is a line of research, more technological, besides the other line, which was more from, as Kyle said, to see how the mechanisms of action make sense in order to have a scientific rationale to combine ingredients. This is another line. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to move into the future. I've always wanted to say that. We're going to move into the future. So I'm going to start off. Colin, we're having this conversation, but it's all a fad, right? Nothing's going to sustain. No, I think I now have everybody's attention, so we'll move on from that. We know it's a sustainable trend. It's it's a marketplace that needs to stratify, that needs to develop. There's a lot of work. We talked about the confusion, so there's a lot of work that we've got at all levels with all stakeholders. Start with you, Liz. Some of the things that need to change or are changing. What are you excited about? What are you challenged about?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good way to end, because kind of summarizing what we're talking about. I think without doubt there's excitement, and I mean I've been tracking this market for years now, and consistently we're seeing double-digit growth, and that's especially in some of the newer segments like native type 2. We're expecting that to continue going forwards, and it really is supported by such strong underlying growth drivers around aging population, care of joints, increasing activity, and the science behind it. These are all remain fundamental drivers that I think mean that it's definitely not a fad. In terms of challenges going forwards, I mean, a lot of this does come back to how the market decides to define itself, how it decides to segment, and taking some responsibility for that messaging, not just simplifying it, but clarifying it and making sure we're getting the right message to the right consumers as well.
I'm going to turn to you, Dave. Various perspectives. This is an opportunity. It's a huge opportunity. It's not risk-free. We've had many of these conversations about transparency, proper substantiation, proper attribution. This opacity that often exists doesn't do us any good.
I agree. I feel like the market potential is huge. That should be driven by the science, I believe. So going back to more science will drive home the points we were making earlier about, do we really call this collagen if it's hydrolyzed? It'll drive home the areas of benefit for each individual product. And, at the end of the day, I feel like as that science shows itself, there'll be more credibility to the ingredient. As long as we go back to sort of what Liz was just saying, as long as we don't go back to making poor marketing choices on this, I mean, that's the hurdle I see, is making sure that, you're using a square peg for a square hole, and not the triangle to the square hole, because we know it doesn't fit unless you use some sandpaper.
Yeah. I guess on the positive side, I would say that from our experiences with the Alliance, the familiarity is continuing to increase. The discernment in consumers, maybe surprisingly to some of you folks, is actually increasing. So the consumers are getting information, making different, better choices. There's a responsibility in the industry, absolutely, because we often let the marketing go gallivanting ahead, and we propagate fad after fad and new ingredient or new area by new area with a 1-year shelf life cycle. I know in the dietary supplement market in the United States, there was an ingredient of the year complex that actually happened from about 1995 to 2010, and it was a new ingredient that would hype, and it would pop, and then it would saturate, it would plateau, it would drop. But I think that there's an opportunity here. I think we need to stratify the category, or this umbrella that we're calling collagen, and the players within it. I do know from our consumer research that there are 3 different markets, as I sort of mentioned earlier. There's this joint pain inflammation market, there's this protein market, and there's this health beauty market, and it's different. So we've got different demographic targets. You can actually organize your entire marketing campaign, your message, and your science around these things. And again, I'm going to go back to this point of active aging. That's a great umbrella area that I think has a broad applicability. It's a younger demographic, so I think we can actually formulate our products and drive our marketing message and do our science on athletes, other types of population sets, active sets, under this premise that there's 25 to 35, 25 to 45-year-old consumers, so great lifetime addressable market. That will be our consumers and spend money if they get the benefits. I think that's an opportunity. One other thing to just mention at this point is we're developing a program called Collagen Verified. And this is to try to set a bar. It's like a certification. It's a standard. It's a document check that actually it is the quality of manufacturing, identification of the source and proving the source of it, the clinical research parameters, and the dose associated with the clinical research parameters. All four of those elements, as well as the values, so things like sustainability, are part of the certification, and an ingredient company will be able to be collagen verified, and then the finished product, the brand, will be able to be collagen verified, hopefully attributing the monograph type benefits to the ingredients and the claims, but then any other claims they want to make will also have to be substantiated. So those are some of the things that we're working towards in order to protect and stratify and organize, and as well as doing a lot of this myth busting. Walking around our industry trade shows and seeing these vegan collagens and proto collagens, whatever, or bioidentical doesn't do us any service at all. So those are some of the things we're excited about. Daniel, what's the future?
Well, I think that it has been said that one of the key elements is the scientific evidence to driving the progress of the collagen products. I think that this is a key parameter. And this scientific evidence should be, as David said, very focused on the specific targets. So if it's for a target which is active people, or another target which is more, with more pain or with different ages. So I think that the scientific evidence would be the key parameter. And for what, as you said, the scientific evidence, it's important to be linked to the specific structure of the product. Because as has been said, for example, in hydrolyzed collagens, we could have different compositions, and there is studies demonstrating that depending on the composition, you have different biologic activities. And for a native type 2 collagen, also it's important to associate to the structure, because it has to be demonstrated that there are the active epitopes that could interact and could elicit the effect and could demonstrate. So I think that this is important to also to know what could be expected from one product or another product. And the other point is then once there is the scientific knowledge, how we could communicate this knowledge with the strengths and with the limitations to let the people to have enough information to make these decisions with the informed decisions. And the future of the science, I think, will come in this way, to be able to provide further evidence in specific segments.
Yep.
Yeah.
And obviously, that's the type of evidence that you're looking for to translate ingredient into your practice.
That is exactly what we need. So to get the collagen in a more important role in our scientific world, let's say, every part is scientific, but we need both things. We need what you say, we need to focus in one specific target so we can recommend our consumer use that for this reason, and we need to verify, well, what you are doing, quality, and to verify the origin, to verify that what we are giving to the patient is not just something that is floating but has no evidence. So with that, both points are really relevant for telling our consumer, okay, you can do that because of that. And this is really important for us.
Yeah. And the healthcare practitioner and clinician perspective is so important to us in industry. And that's why I'm actually really grateful to be able to be speaking to you in this context. How do we find more of you? I mean, you said the clinical research, but to what extent your colleagues, like, how do we engage broadly and on the scientific front, but also into practice? How do we work more with clinicians such as you, as industry, in this category, but even more broadly?
I would say literature. That's our main point. So the literature is what we look for when someone is explaining something. We want a good literature. We want good evidence supporting the product. So this is the point. And maybe at the beginning, what you achieve is that the specialist or the clinician is not stopping the treatment. That will be really a good point, because what is doing now is stopping the treatment. So if they don't stop the treatment, this is fantastic. But they can also promote the treatment if they really understand what is doing. and
So mechanistic, a very mechanistic
that's
approach.
it. Application and clarify whatever happened with the peptides. So this should be really, really clear to have the clinicians in your side. This is really important for us.
Yeah, which brings up the broader sort of healthcare practitioner engagement as well as influencer engagement. Kyle, I know you're passionate. So how do we find more people like you?
Well, not like me, but people that are interested in collagen. That's something interesting because most of the doctors, most of the healthcare workers, they don't have time to read. It will be very important to read papers, but it's not something that people can do every day. It's not easy for them to read some papers. So we need to make the information to reach these people. And I'm talking about doctors, but pharmacists and all kind of professionals through lectures or online courses. And I like what David said, we need to keep it simple even for healthcare workers, not just for the consumers. Because sometimes some concepts are difficult to understand at the beginning. So just keep it simple. And as you told me, just wait for the questions and then answer that.
Yeah, like as a pharmacist, efficacy, we get beaten to death basically with a few things when you're looking at studies. But at the end of the day, like it'd be best just to summarize, like how much do I need to take of what am I, first of all, what do I need to take? How much of it do I need to take? And then understanding how long it takes to work, because those reasonable expectations are critical. Yeah. And if I can, as a pharmacist, I can learn those 3 or 4 things, I can easily say that to a customer of like, hey, here's the product we have. You're having joint issues, or you're an athlete, or not even an athlete. You're super active lifestyle. Okay, you need to take this. You need to take this much of it, and you need to take it for at least this long. And if you do, you're going to start to see or feel or whatever the message is. And it's something you're going to need to continue to take, because the process can start itself all over again when we're talking about like with native type 2 collagen. It's not like I take it and after, it's not like medicine where if I have a bacterial infection and I know that if I take my antibiotic for 7 days or 10 days or whatever it is, that I shouldn't have that infection anymore. Okay. That's probably a very simplistic example. In this case, we're talking about maintenance prevention. I actually have an issue with blood pressure. So for me, like I know if I don't want to have a stroke or a heart attack, I should be taking my blood pressure medicine every day. It's not like I take it for a couple of days and it goes away. And it's the same thing with like native type 2 collagen. But these are the messages that we need to convey to the healthcare practitioner so that there's confidence. Because we're so used to, as a pharmacist, I give you a drug. I know that usually within 24 hours, you're going to realize that effect. My blood pressure will go down, or my pain will go away. I take 2 ibuprofen, my headache will go away. And I don't know how long it's going to take. In this case, like we need to communicate those messages, because otherwise we're going to end up with very disappointed patients that we're caring for. And so for me, like starting with that with the practitioner is really where to go. And then if they want to read the paper, make it available, Exactly.
Let's talk influencers for a second. Liz, you and I have had a little bit of this conversation, and there's all sorts of stakeholders depending on which part of the collagen marketplace, whether if it's the beauty, there's a very social media active group. In what we're talking about here mostly today, you've got the sports environment. Yeah. So let's talk about the role of influencers.
I mean, I've seen them play a really positive role in some areas. I saw a really great campaign with a influencer from Brazil, and she'd had cruciate ligament surgery, and talking about her recovery rates and all, and links to the science within that influencer sort of article. Then you have more sort of popularist influencers, and the messaging there is not always correct and not always clear. So I think it does come back to that messaging and making sure that messaging is right. So for me, again, the onus is on the brands. I mean, the onus is on everyone in the industry, right, to get the communication right. But the onus then is on the brands to make sure that the messaging is accurate going out.
Yeah, we've also identified another influencer community, and that's the dietitian and nutritionist communities. More specifically in the United States, we've been taught that they were averse to supplementation, and the old school ones are, but they're not necessarily running things in those sort of environments anymore. And this is also the information age. There's also a little bit of a distrust or displacement of some of the more allopathic medical side effects. That's causing this search for more natural solutions. So that's an influencer community that we've actively targeted, and they're insatiably curious. Insatiably curious. And they do have time to read the papers.
Wonderful.
And sometimes it's published papers, sometimes but they want them to be credible. They want to make sure that there's a peer review. They want to make sure that they can have confidence in it, because then they're going to incorporate it into their practice. So
I think it does come back to the science, like Daniel says. A lot of our discussion, it does come back. It comes back to the, if we can be science led as a category, then we're on much more solid ground.
Yeah.
One study doesn't count. I mean, it's great, but really there needs to be continued deeper dives into what else is going on. Is there another benefit? Is there a secondary endpoint that we didn't see in the 90-day study that really shows itself at 6 months? And like vitamin K2 is a great example of that one, where the study they did, it took 5 years, and they realized that it actually decreased, the calcification in the arteries. And we're talking 5 years, and you have to take it every day. So again, that's the other thing, like to expand these studies into either longer pieces of time or looking at other secondary or tertiary endpoints that we can capture while we're looking for those primaries as well.
I think we've got a consensus that it's a confusing, confounding category right now, but I think we're all pretty bullish.
Oh, for sure.
I think what's great, Len, that as you talked about, there's all these different groups of potential consumer groups. We've got all these different types of collagen, which is fantastic. And it means, we've said this before, there's kind of room for everyone to grow here. There's room for the category to develop and for everyone to grow, so long as we come back to that messaging angle.
And work to do.
Work to do.
A lot of communication and a lot of simplification, a lot of transparency.
Yeah.
Wow. We've covered a lot of ground. Thank you, guys. We started talking about the current environment and the confounding and confusing marketplace. We talked about where consumers are at currently. We then dug deep into the collagen market and the collagen joint market specifically, talking about some of the differences in mechanisms of action and modulation. We then talked about product formats, formulating, and considerations from a product development standpoint. And then we talked about the future and where we need to go, the opportunities and the challenges there. So yes, we've covered a lot of ground. This has been informative and educational for myself as well through the course of this, and hopefully it is to you as well. I'd like to thank this expert panel, Liz Thundo from Frost & Sullivan, VP, Dave Foreman, the natural pharmacist, going to use that number for you now, Kyle Gonzalez de Souza, Medical Affairs at Upsim, Daniel Martinez, the head of R&D, Human and Animal Health at Bioiberica, and Ingrid Muller, rheumatologist, professor at University of Barcelona and University of Catalonia. Thank you all. This has been a wonderful 90 minutes.